Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Nakatomi Test Kitchen. I am your tester, Kelly Nakatomi. Today, I realized that we haven't done like any fun science experiments in a while. We're going to be making ricotta. Yeah, the ricotta cheese that you can get at the store, you can get on top of pizzas. You could use it to like make cheesecakes and lemon ricotta pancakes. Like it's such a great, versatile, kind of neutral flavored cheese, and it's super simple to make at home. Traditionally, ricotta means cooked twice in Italian. So it's a cheese that's made from the leftover whey from the initial making of cheese. So like a harder cheese, right? And then you have like the whey left over, and then that gets turned into ricotta. But most of us don't have access to like a local dairy where we can, or a cheese maker that we can get our whey from. And so this is such a great kind of like faux ricotta that tastes just as fantastic. Although purists will probably be like, that's not real ricotta. But anyway, I am going to, I looked at a bunch of different recipes and they all kind of basically said you need to use a whole milk and then an acid and then you just let it curdle and then you strain it. It's really just that simple. But then I saw the Barefoot Contessa's recipe, and you know, if you've seen a couple of my other recipes, you know that I am a fan of Ina Garten. So I saw her recipe for ricotta, which uses not just whole milk, but heavy cream. So this is going to be a super decadent ricotta cheese that you can use as a spread on top of toast. You can use it as an ingredient for other desserts. And I will also show you what happens if you let it get really, really dry and kind of like form it into something that you can actually slice. So let's get started. In a heavy pot, so you want to use something that is non-reactive. You want to use something that is kind of got a heavy level thickness to it because you want the heat to heat up the milk and cream kind of in a uniform way without burning. So if you use like a really thin stock pot or a thin like saucepan, you kind of run the risk of that. So if you are able to get yourself a thicker, not cast iron, but a thicker pot or saucepan, then this is going to work out better for you. If you do use something that's thinner, then you just have to be really, really careful and make sure that nothing burns. You might have to just, it might take a little bit extra time because you have to cook it up with a slower heat, right? So to a stock pot, we're going to add, so I found, this is like a local, this is from Sonoma, and I got this at Whole Foods. This was, I'm always attracted to whole milks that actually have cream that's risen to the top, and that's what this had in the refrigerated case. But it's not required as long as you don't use an ultra high pasteurized milk. Milks like Fairlife, ultra filtered, ultra pasteurized. And if they're ultra pasteurized, then they'll say it on the label. They actually have to. So just stay away from those for this kind of milk. So this kind of cheese. So you're going to go ahead and add, this is 4 cups of whole milk. You can see some of the cream is kind of still stuck to the top. And you're also going to add 2 cups. So it's 4 cups of whole milk, which is a quart. And you're going to add 2 cups of heavy cream, which is 2 cups. You're going to bring that up to a boil. So that's going to take a few minutes. While that is heating up, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. You don't want to use iodized salt or table salt or anything like that. Kosher salt is what is calls for here. And I'm just stirring it just to kind of incorporate the cream and the milk and the salt together. This is a really delicate cheese. It's a really easy cheese to make, but it's kind of delicate. If you stir it too much or you're too aggressive with it, um, it'll get kind of rubbery and chewy, and you don't really want that in like a cheese that you want to like turn into like a spread. So if you are the kind of person that likes to use a thermometer, you want to get this up to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. But you're technically just bringing this to a boil. So um, if you want to just keep an eye on it, wait until like the bubbles start to form, make sure it doesn't boil over. And it's a little bit of a process just because you're kind of sitting and waiting, but it's definitely worth it at the end. Okay, so it's been about 4, almost 5 minutes. Um, I have this on a medium to low heat so that I can get this to come up to a boil um, slowly, so that we're not burning anything or scalding anything. And I'm only just stirring it occasionally when I see like there's like you know how with cream there's like a little skim that starts to form. So I'm just kind of stirring that right back in, melting it back with everything else. I'm starting to see little bubbles forming, which means that we're really close to our next step. You can actually start to hear it starting to bubble. Also, something I found from other past tests is if you bring this up to a boil too fast, and sometimes the milk fat will separate and you get this like weird kind of orangey blobs of butter, melted butter on top. So just in general, I think bringing it up to a boil slowly is preferable, especially for a recipe like this where you're using like a lot more milk fat because you're adding all the extra cream. And so just a reminder, all we have here is a quart of whole milk that's regular pasteurized, not high filtered or ultra pasteurized or ultra filtered, and a pint of heavy cream. So 4 cups of whole milk, which is a quart, 2 cups of heavy cream, which is a pint, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And that's all that's in there right now. You start to see a lot more of those bubbles coming to the surface, so we're so close. It's actually kind of soothing watching like the top of the bubbles just kind of quiver. They're ready to go, almost. It's really starting to foam up, so talking mere seconds here. Okay, so up until now it's been kind of okay to stir. Once you add this next ingredient, you do kind of have to leave it alone for a while. So now that it's come to a boil, we're going to go ahead and turn it off completely, and we're going to add 3 tablespoons of, Ina Garten says, a good white wine vinegar. So I found this also at Whole Foods. It's an organic white wine vinegar from a winery in Napa Valley. You can also use lemon juice in this recipe. You're just basically adding an acid. The problem with lemon juice is that it's kind of dependent on the fruit itself as to whether or not it's more acidic. Like sometimes the crop will be super acidic, sometimes it's on the sweeter side. So lemon juice is a little bit more of an experiment. um, but if you use white wine vinegar, you can't really go wrong. So you're going to add 3 full tablespoons. And then you're going to leave it alone. You're going to give it one quick stir. Just to get all the acid and the milk and cream all combined. And then you're going to leave that alone for about You're going to leave that alone for about 5 minutes. If you stir it too much, it'll make the cheese rubbery. If you add more heat to this, it'll make the cheese more rubbery. So the best thing to do at this point is just kind of let it sit and do its job. It's going to take about 5 minutes. So, okay, so it's been about 3 minutes. So this could take anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes. So around the 3-minute mark, I'm able to go in and check, and you can kind of see that like there's like curds, and then there's this like translucent liquid, which is the whey, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna carefully scoop this into so here's a 3-layer process here. So there's a big pot to catch the whey that drips out of this. You have a mesh sieve. And then on top of that, you're going to have 2 layers of cheesecloth that you've dampened, so it's already wet and moldable. So you're going to put that in here. And then you're going to slowly, see, it almost looks like a soft tofu in like a broth of some kind. I love the fact that because I was using milk from dairies and not from like giant farms, it's got this like kind of golden yellow color, like a French vanilla ice cream color, as opposed to just pure white that you get from like a pasteurized, homogenized kind of big manufacturer milk. So you can do this in sections, and you can tell already that there is whey dripping out the bottom here. And whey is something that you can use for a bunch of other things. It's got a whole bunch of minerals and vitamins and other nutrients in it. It can be used as like an add-on to like pet foods. It could be an add-on to like when you're cooking rice or oatmeal. You can mix it into your smoothies. Because this is what's called an acidic ricotta, there's 2 kinds. There's 2 kinds of ricotta out there. There's sweet ricotta, which is the kind that you get when you get whey from a cheesemaker, and then you use that to make your ricotta. And then there's this method which just uses milk and an acid. So it's an acidic ricotta. So it's got a little bit of that tang, that not as tangy as cream cheese, but kind of reminds you of that. Just like as an afterthought, like an afternote. But also has like the kind of neutral flavor of like a mozzarella, like a fresh cheese mozzarella. So ricotta is, as at this point, you've got ricotta and you've got whey. And you can, if you squeeze this too much, then you'll get a really thick sliceable ricotta. If you leave this as is and you carefully spoon this into a serving dish, then it becomes this like luscious, spreadable cheese that you see like for like ricotta toast, like that kind of thing. And you can also use it for, because it's acidic, you can use it for like more acidic desserts, I think, like cannoli filling ricotta, maybe. I will use this mostly as like a spread, but I have used it for the ricotta cheese in like veggie lasagna. I've used it. I tend to use it more for savory applications rather than desserts and things like that. I have not used my homemade or the Ina Garten homemade ricotta in a ricotta, like a lemon ricotta cheesecake or a pancake, but I definitely want to give it a shot. For those, I tend to use I've been using store bought, but I should probably give it a shot with this because store bought has other like preservatives and things like that in it, and this, as it is in the fridge, keeps for about a week. So these other curds I will keep transferring through cheesecloth and then transferring it onto a plate. I will be right back once this is all done, and I will show you both this really super soft, delicate version and then the version that you can slice because it melts so good. We'll be right back. And we're back. I've let this ricotta cheese just kind of drip and drain its way out slowly. It's been about 20 minutes. Um, Let me see what it looks like underneath. See that whey that has collected on the bottom. And that whey, I actually will put into like additional little storage containers and leave them in my fridge, and I can use them for anything from adding it, like I said earlier, to my smoothies, to cooking my rice with it if I'm making like a risotto. Um, I haven't used it in that mushroom risotto recipe, but I will definitely be giving that a shot because I think the little extra tang and that kind of cheesy umami-ness is probably going to be really, really good in that risotto. And all you have to do is you're just substituting whatever water um, is that the recipe calls for. You just substitute with this whey liquid. So if it's like 2 cups of water for whatever recipe, then you can do like 1 part water, 1 part whey. And you can kind of play around with like the levels of whey versus water and see which ones you like the most. Going to slowly kind of spoon this out into a container. So soft. And you can use this immediately, like I'm going to do here in a minute, or you can put saran wrap on it and put it in the fridge and it'll keep up to a week. I wouldn't keep it much past that, but I would have probably eaten it all by then, so. Or given it to friends, which is actually the plan for these. Move this out of the way. Now ricotta, the soft version, is perfect on toast. So I'm going to get a piece of toast here. Some ricotta. And it just, oh, look at that. Like spreads. Not quite like butter. It kind of looks like egg whites, but it won't taste anything like egg whites because it's just cheese. And then I would drizzle just a little bit of honey on top of that. You could add fruit to this if you'd like. Pears or walnuts seems to be like the common topping for like ricotta toasts. So because this is freshly made, it's still warm, which makes this so good. It's so light but rich at the same time. It's hard to explain how amazingly perfect this is. Mm. So, if you make this recipe like I showed you in this video, you're going to get the soft, spreadable ricotta cheese. If, on the other hand, you go a little crazy and you decide to squeeze, manually squeeze all of the whey out of this cheese, um, obviously you're going to lose the softness, but what you end up with is something like this, which is a really hard, well, it's not really hard, it's still soft, but it's a harder block of cheese. And this kind of dry ricotta is actually perfect for slicing. And you can use this as, it's so good on pizza. It really is. Because it melts beautifully. And then you just place that right on top of your toast. And you stick that in the toaster. And you can use like your traditional kind of pizza, tomato sauce, put some basil on top, maybe a couple slices of pepperoni if you want, or you can just, turn this into like a mock. I don't want to say mock because it's still a dairy product, but you can turn this into like a mock caprese salad or a mock caprese sandwich at home with some basil and some cherry tomatoes and some balsamic vinegar and olive oil, because when it's harder like this, I have to tell you, it tastes like mozzarella. And all the cheese enthusiasts are going to be like, what are you saying? That's ricotta, not mozzarella. But both mozzarella and ricotta are these kind of light, neutral tasting cheeses that melt great. So if you, like all the recipes, we like, treat it kindly, treat it gently. Don't let all the water drain out completely, or you get this like hard cheese. But honestly, I don't think that's a mistake. I would actually use that in other preparations, and I think sandwiches is a great way to use a drier ricotta. But again, because it melts so well, it's perfectly perfect and absolutely delicious if you turn it into a pizza topping. So I would do that too. Um, I hope you enjoyed following me along in this very, very nerdy science experiment episode of Nakatomi Test Kitchen. I really hope you give this a shot. If you don't want a super fatty cheese as an end result, you can kind of omit the heavy cream and just do whole milk. You can do this exact same recipe with whole milk. You can also replace, like I said during the video, you can replace the white wine vinegar with lemon juice. You can also try other vinegars, although the general consensus is that white wine vinegar is like the way to go. But you can also use a distilled white vinegar for a much milder flavor. And like I said, if you use like lemon juice, you'll get that kind of lemony, more of a cream cheesy flavor, if that's what you like in your cheeses. And this is like the fun part about home cheese making, especially when it's this easy, is you can try all sorts of other acids and other milks and see what comes up. See if you're able to make um, a ricotta out of, I don't know if you can out of a non-dairy cheese actually, but because I think you need the milk fats and the casein in there for it to turn into cheese. But again, experimentation is what makes the test kitchen a test kitchen. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you make your own cheese and you make like a sandwich or some other recipe out of it, please tag me in any post that you put on social media. I would love to see what you come up with your own version of homemade ricotta. My name is Kelly Nakatomi. This is Nakatomi Test Kitchen. I will see you